What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Hope you guys are all having a great day as always. Today, I'm sitting next to some new skates that I get to dive into and review for y'all. These are the Flying Eagle Enkidu. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm not quite sure, but we'll just roll with it. I'm really excited to review these for a few reasons. First one is these are the first aggressive skates that Flying Eagle has brought to market. And the second is they are actually an urban skate or urban shell that they've just adapted to become a aggressive skate, which I think is really cool. There's been a few different skates in the aggressive game that have done this. That just kind of transferred from the urban skate world, but I really like that. I think that's a really cool idea for a few reasons. Yeah, I just want to first off say thank you to Flying Eagle for sending these skates to review. I will be giving you 100% my own opinion on these skates. I wasn't paid other than just giving these out for review. So yeah, stay tuned and let's just dive into the overview of these skates. All right, so before I get into the overview, I just want to point out real quick what else comes in the box other than the skates, obviously. You get a little sack here. We're getting a nice Flying Eagle skate tool. Got some Flying Eagle stickers. And then you've got a axle bolt. And then it's nice because sometimes I see the tools, you only get one set of tools, but on aggressive skates, they don't have the race axles. So you need two Allen keys to actually loosen up and take off your wheels. So it's nice that they just threw in another little cheap little Allen key just to hold on the other side as you're unscrewing those. We also have an extra set of frame bolts. That's cool to see. The reason why these are in here, I suspect, is because these are actually for this setup if you want to ride this as an urban big wheel setup, aka 165 mount frames, rather than this setup with a sole kit and a UFS flat frame for aggressive. So that's cool that they're giving you the ability to buy one skate and just with a few different pieces of hardware and whatever 165 mount frame you want, you can go change these back into their urban skate form. If you pop these off, look at what happens there. We have a raised heel boot, and this shell right here is actually their urban shell. It's a, I think they call it their F5S Eclipse, but they also share the same shell, I believe, in their F6S Falcons. So this is literally right here. This is an urban skate. There's nothing aggressive about this skate right here. This is an urban boot. The things that make this aggressive is this new sole plate they created, which it follows the contours of the bottom of the boot perfect. Adds that sole kit, which is really quite wide for locking your sole grinds. Even a negative side is really nice. And then gives the mounting points, a flat mounting base for a UFS frame such as this one. So really it's just this plate and this frame are the things that make this boot an aggressive skate. I kind of like that. And when you put it on there, I like the boot without it. I think it's a clean looking boot, but when you put this on here, it really transforms into a pretty dope looking aggressive boot. That's really a big reason. There's some other skates and companies that are doing this in the industry. Some people think it's kind of cheesy because the skate manufacturer doesn't actually have to pay any money or think about building a new boot and shell for their aggressive line. They literally just repurposing, and all they're doing is building this for the most part. But to be honest, I think it's just a smart business plan, and I really like urban skates because they tend to give you more support anyways, and they tend to just have a better fit in my opinion. Not all the time, but that's just my take and my nature of like experiencing urban skates and aggressive skates. So that's one of the reasons I really wanted to review this skate. So starting at the top with the cuff, we have what looks to be a very slight cut in the back, V-cut, low cut. For mobility, it's not much of anything, so really we don't have much of a cut down there, which, I would have liked to see a little more of a cut, but I think these are probably aimed at more towards the beginners, I would guess, which when you don't have as much of a deep V-cut, you have more stability. You get more mobility if you have more the V-cut down here, but you know, like I said, I think these are a little more aimed towards the beginners and getting people into aggressive skating. So makes sense that they did that. Next thing on the cuff here, we have the buckle. Nice to see a full metal buckle here. You know, the mechanism feels nice. The other side, the receiver here, the strap is hiding away and tucked away in the cuff, which is great to see. You're not gonna be clipping that or pulling on it. Strap, nice and thick. I mean, not the thickest, but it's not, you know, the thinnest that I feel like it's just gonna snap. The other thing, if you come down here with the cuff, it looks like we have an Allen keyhole here. It's not just smooth. So usually you can tell if the cuff is removable if you have a little keyhole right here. If it's just completely smooth, it's riveted on and you can't remove that cuff unless you're drilling them out. But so yeah, this cuff is removable. Not quite sure why you'd want to remove this cuff because I don't think they have any other colors or any other cuffs that are gonna fit on this that, you know, that you're gonna be wanting to switch them out. But maybe you have like a favorite cuff that from, you know, I don't know, some other aggressive cuff that you want to throw on here that will work. You know, Frankenstein it if you want to, go for it. Next thing down, we have the 45-degree strap. That 45-degree strap is a Velcro strap, which isn't my favorite, but it gets the job done. And what a 45-degree strap does is basically just sucks your heel back into that heel cup and keeps it down and back where it needs to be so your whole foot doesn't really move around. 45-degree straps are huge in the urban skate world. I mean, this is an urban boot, so there you go. But they are coming and making their way to the aggressive game, which I am all for. Laces are the next thing to keep our foot in the boot. And the laces themselves are just pretty inexpensive. That's totally fine. Just go out and buy a pair of like $10 wax Taki laces, so then you can really cinch these up and close that top up over your forefoot if you need to. I do like to see there's a couple of these raised eyelets, protected eyelets, which is always nice to see. The thing that I think that they do the best, they do protect your lace a little bit, not that big of a deal, but the biggest thing is they raise it up so that when you're pulling on it, you can actually get a little bit more flex out of it than just pulling across the shell. So just a little more leverage. Let's just take a look at this shell real quick. We've got, like I said, a UFS urban shell. So this shell is a raised heel. We have some nice metal plates in the bottom, which is great because they are going to help in power transfer. This is where all of this stuff from the bottom mounts up to and tightens into the boot, so really keeps it nice and solid. The next thing we have here is you're noticing a slide plate. They didn't even remove this slide plate. They actually just made it fit right within that sole plate there, which is kind of cool. I like that. I think it's different. No other aggressive skate has that right there, and you slide or you go down in that area all the time, so that's kind of cool. The thing I don't really like about this, and I wish they would have cleaned up before they, you know, re-release this mold, is just deleting all these air vent holes all over the boot. I understand it for urban, you know, big wheel skating because technically it's supposed to let your foot breathe, even though I'd never feel that. And second, it reduces weight, and weight's a real thing when you're urban skating. Or fitness skating, because, you know, you're just like running. You don't want heavy shoes. You want the lightest, nicest shoes you can have to go for a run. But yeah, that's the shell. Let's step on down to the sole plate. This sole plate, I really enjoy. You know, like I said before, it's got really nice space for locking. It's a modern sole kit for an aggressive skate because the negative and positive sides are quite wide. It is a sandwich design, obviously, because this is a shell that doesn't have a sole kit on it already, so they had to make it for it. And this really, the contours of this match just so perfectly. Like literally, like you put that on there, it's like it's perfect in there. It's awesome. When you're putting a shell on a sole plate and then putting a frame underneath, that's like the sandwich. And the reason they had to do this is, one, this boot doesn't have any kind of sole to actually lock onto to slide on sole grinds. But two, this is a raised heel boot, so they couldn't just take a UFS aggressive frame and plop it on there, because if you see back there on the heel, that's a raised heel, so it won't work. So they literally had to build this so that they could sandwich them together and create the aggressive skate. You know, the downsides of this are the fact that you're adding weight, you're adding more pieces to the puzzle that could technically have some creak and movement. But the worst thing for me is you're adding a lot more distance from the bottom of your foot inside this boot to the bottom of the grinding space. So it just feels not as much, the grind feel isn't quite as good as say like an Aeon, which would be the best because it's part of the boot. That's not the end of the world. The thing they did right about this that I've noticed by taking this apart is you'll notice there's 3 pieces of hardware here for the frame bolts. There's only 2 that go into this frame to mount it onto here, but there's another hole right here, which actually before you put the frame on here, you're putting this in here to secure this piece, the sole plate to the boot, which is really nice to see, just that one extra piece that's just gonna help keep that structure together and really solid. I know that the sandwich would do it too, but you know, just having that extra piece just gives me that peace of mind that like, this is gonna be a really solid boot. Other thing to note about the sole kit is we have some already pre-Dremeled out whole wheel wells right here in the front and the back. So if you wanted to, you know, add on your wish frame later on, like swap this frame out with a wish frame or something, you don't got to drill anything to add them to this, because the wish frame with those 72mm wheels would be rubbing if this wasn't cut out. But yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that. Let's hop on down to the frame and the wheels real quick. So the frame is their own design Flying Eagle frame. Sticking with their whole branding, every single frame that is on their urban skates has this like winged raven, raven. It has this winged eagle kind of design within their frames. They stuck with that design here. It's just imprinted on kind of more of a classic frame. The difference about this frame than any other frame that is really on the market right now, well, a couple differences, is that kind of, I was expecting this to be like, you know what, a flat 60, which means each one of these wheels, I should do it this way so you can see the designs of the wheels. Each one of these wheels are 60mm big. Actually, these wheels are 66mm and 98A diameter. So the 66, the bigger wheel, flat, that's gonna be a really nice platform and smooth ride and fast ride. So I'm really excited about that. This is the first flat 66 I'm gonna be riding on, which is gonna be probably closer to my 72s with 60s wish setup that I always ride. So really excited about this frame. I think it's really cool. The only thing that's different about this frame that from many other frames I'm riding is this is a really tiny, tight grind space, because the spaced wheels for 2 and 3 are pretty typical, but they're adding in that extra chunk right here on both sides for wheel bite protection, which I do like that, but it's just really tiny. I think the groove's gonna be fine. It's gonna feel different. I'm so used to a wish frame that is the H block area where you're grinding is pretty much this big, like 4 fingers. I mean, this is like maybe 2. So that's gonna be a little different for me. I gotta get used to that, really making sure I lock it perfect. And you know, some of the bigger, rounder rails that I grind aren't even gonna fit in here. They're really just gonna be grinding on the wheel bite protection areas. So the other thing that kind of isn't awesome for, in my opinion, is when you're going down, getting boot down, it really makes for a much taller frame than when you could be grinding down in this space. You're grinding way higher, so you got to bend over further to get your boot down on your sole plate as well. So, all right, so the wheels, like I said before, are a 66mm 90A. They said they are high rebound, but we'll find out. The bearings in here are Flying Eagle ABEX 7 608 RS. Probably a decent bearing, good enough, especially for aggressive skating. Guess the last thing to talk about here is to crack this shell open and check out the liner. So let's do that now. All right, so here we go. Here is the liner. It's not the worst liner I've ever seen. Doesn't feel nearly the best liner I've ever seen. Somewhere in the middle there. Let's just start breaking it down here. So we have the skate carry strap right here. Pretty thick, looks decent enough. The low cut, which isn't too low, just like that follows the form of the cuff right here. It does have a few rivets in here for lacing up. So if you do want to lace these through with the shell, into the shell, you can. Or you can just lace these separately with a smaller lace. That's kind of nice to see. Like my Intuitions, I have separate laces on those. I love it. And it really, if you want that extra support, you can lace these up and tighten it around your leg and then tighten this up, and it really kind of locks you in there really well. So that's a cool option to see on these. Tongue isn't the worst. I mean, it's not super floppy, but it's definitely not as rigid and thick that I like to see. I like the really stiff tongues because, you know, the forward flex, like it feels better when the tongue is stiff because it's always with your foot instead of like crunching over this part on the cuff. So, you know, it's not the best tongue, but it'll get the job done. If we move down here to the toe box, we have a neoprene toe box that goes all the way around. So if you're kind of in between that size, or really trying to maximize that shell, your toes can kind of push through and be comfortable in there. It'd be great if they put a little bit of a glue or some kind of grippy rubber right here or dots around here, even on the bottom, because that would just help to hold that liner perfect without any slipping in the liner. I'll probably do that in the future, just put some hot glue on here. Yeah, as for inside, you know, the only thing that I really don't like about these liners is they don't have any kind of heel lock down in here. I mean, they do, the form is there, but the Achilles, like it comes in and it just locks your heel down below it. They're really soft padding in there, and it's probably comfortable, but it's not gonna, I think it's gonna wear out pretty quick and allow your heel to maybe have a little bit of lift, where if it just had a little more stiff padding above your heel and your ankle area, it would just keep your heel locked a little better. So that's the only thing I'm not huge fan of. But let's check out the insole. Here's the insole. You know, it's just an insole. I like the orange. I think the orange is kind of a neat touch. But other than that, it's, you know, if your foot fits this perfect with this insole, I think it's totally fine. I would have loved to see a little bit of heel shock absorption on the insole, but there's nothing. It's just flat. It's literally the same exact thickness all the way through. It is hard foam, which I like to see. I like to see that hard foam, so it's actually going to do a little bit to, you know, keep your foot from feeling any of the inconsistencies in the hard shell of the inside of the boot. But, you know, just a cheap insole, you can replace them. Last thing I want to show you here is, if you look down inside the boot here, you can see the shock absorber. You can also see it right here, that little red piece. So let's pull that out. Here's the shock absorber. It's really tiny. Very classic urban skate shock absorber, because you don't need a bunch of shock absorption in an urban skate or fitness skate. I keep saying urban, but fitness too, you could use it. Because you're not doing a crazy ton of jumps and landing and stuff, and you don't need that heel absorption. But in an aggressive skate, especially when you don't got any shock absorption in the insole, I mean, this right here is what's saving your heel and your back and everything when you're jumping, and that's what you do on aggressive skates. So, you know, one thing I would say is to Flying Eagle, maybe, you know, if you can't put a bigger one of these in there, at least redesign or put a new insole in that has a bit more shock absorption inside the liner. Yeah, there's one last thing I wanted to do because I get a lot of these questions at the end of my overviews on other skates, and I never remember to do it, and that is to weigh these skates just to give you an idea of how heavy they are. So I'm gonna grab the scale real quick, and I'll be right back. These are not the lightest skate out there for aggressive. So I don't think that's a big issue for me. You know, I skate anything from the lightest skates to some of the heaviest skates, and I'm gonna weigh them here as well, just to kind of give you where these things stand. I think these are towards the heavier end, but let's just get them on the scale and see how much they weigh. All right, so these look like they are 4 pounds, 6 ounces. Next I'm really interested in is the king for the heavyweight. This is the skate I'm skating right now. The blank, rollerblade blank skate, love it to death. It's a great high quality skate. Not truly apples to apples because this is the stock setup. This is not stock. I'm rolling the wish frame with a little bigger wheels, so this might be a little heavier than a stock blank setup would be, but it'll give you the ballpark, at least when I'm rolling on. So, yep, that's what I thought. These are 4 pounds, 12 ounces. So very close to that 5 pounds there on one skate. This is a beast. But, you know, like I said, I skate these, I love them. And I also skate some of the lightest skates, which are the Rossi's M12s, which roll in at, and these are completely stock, 4.2 pounds. So, like I said, these guys are, or 4.2, 4 pounds, 2 ounces. So like I said, the Flying Eagle Enkidu are kind of that middle ground, I would say heavier middle ground. So just, you know, take that as you will. Hopefully this all helps illuminate a little bit of what these skates are all about. I am really excited to put these skates back together and get out there and just start testing them. So if you guys are excited to watch me skate them and get the full review and my thoughts on these skates after skating them, make sure you tune in next time for the full review on these skates. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you ring that bell so you miss any of these uploads. And until next time, guys, just keep rolling.